Here we go. January 5th, 2021. Welcome to the new year. And thank you for coming over to YouTube and to Blue Star Media to watch my podcast 40. And I know it's going to sound crazy, but I tried 4 times, 3 different phones to make the Twitter podcast work. And then I found out that obviously they don't want to update the software because they were probably having problems. And they figured, well, we're just going to get rid of it. So Periscope ends on March 31st. And between now and then, we'll get all our podcasts off and over here to Blue Star Media on YouTube. This is going to be a new site where I do my podcast. They're not going to be as long. I'm going to try and keep blocks of like 15 to 20 minutes. And then I'm just going to start it up. So it's going to be 41, 42. No, it'll be 40A, 40B, 40C today. So 40A is now. 40A is an introduction. And 40A is going to be all the latest news that's going on. And I appreciate everybody who's come followed it over the past year. One of the things they tell you on YouTube is you'll see a subscribe button and a bell for notifications. Please click on both of them. You'll be able to get a notification when something comes up. And if you subscribe, you're going to be able to come right on, and it may even pop up on your phone. I've never done this stuff before from a broadcast perspective. I've done it from an interview perspective, and then upload the interviews before. And if you get a chance, go back and look at the bottom below this, and you'll see a lot of other interviews of interesting people. And I have a whole bunch more. There's stuff going back 6 years there. So, and I know I've got a whole ton of other interviews going back 10 years. So hopefully I'll be able to track them down and get them uploaded and get a date on them so you guys can, if you want, you can come back and see some of these stars of today back when they were babies. And I look to have more interviews on here and do more creative things with this and the Blue Star Network using our Blue Star Media site on YouTube. Why? This seems to be the future. It's more video based, and this is where we're headed. So let's get with 40, letter A. And obviously what's best is I can see how long it is in top, right above. And now I don't have to like keep looking and figuring, oh man, I spoke for too long. I'll be able to keep it concise. Okay. Probably the biggest reason everybody's here is to learn what I said in those segments. And I will change it so it'll look like it's, it'll be on it. I'll be able to pre-record these and be able to just launch them all at a certain hour. Just hit the button and upload them, and you'll be able to watch them. I can do it anytime. I could be sitting in a car doing these and then just punching them up and uploading them. Why I think it's pretty cool is because this will be more spontaneous. It's to do all this takes quite a bit of time. I have at least 14 pages of information, including an article from Sports Business Journal that I thought was pretty interesting. College leaders are split on how much regulation should be required. What is the fair amount of value and how is it determined? I'll save that for the other one. And I think this was the article, Sharp Focus. And it was pretty good. In fact, it was so good I pulled it out. And I'm a subscriber to it. There was another one that I had in here. It was about what's the price of a football quarterback. A quarterback's worth $2.4 million. I'll go into that when I get to the other stuff. Okay, latest news. Big one. Baylor women's basketball coach was exposed to COVID by a family member on Christmas Day, quarantined immediately. Each of the last 3 tests showed when it came back negative, leading up to the TCU matchup. However, Mulkey opted to remain in quarantine. On January 4th, she tested positive and will rejoin the team on January 15th. Well, Baylor UConn was Thursday night. As soon as that came out, that game's canceled. So that means one of the big games that was supposed to be this season is already off the books. What does that mean for people who are trying to figure out the future of like what's going to happen with the NCA, etc. I think it's going to be what's good is that now I can get all my calls, and yes, I did get the new 12, hoping that this would help with Periscope. It did. So that's that actually tells you a lot. Number 2 is it's going to be critical to see who gets into the NCAA tournament. Why am I mentioning that? Is because the women, this came out earlier, but I'll bring it up now because maybe people have missed it. The NCAA's preliminary talks in San Antonio serve as a site host for the women. When they talked about it for the men, the women already jumped in and did more preliminary work for San Antonio. And, Lynn Holtzman, the NCAA VP of women's basketball, San Antonio was the perfect region for us to explore because we already had an established and fully operational local organizing committee in place for 2021 Women's Final Four. That means all the other regionals are out. They'll probably come back and give them one, if not 1 year, 2 years later, they'll come back and visit those. Is that a big deal? Ivy League's out of the tournament, and Duke is out. And why do I mention? I'll come back to Duke in a second. But that means that the entire women's tournament is going to be in Indy, and we're talking the beginning of April. What's the options of vaccination at that point? I'll save that for another podcast because these are all going to be based on topics. And that one comes out to more summer basketball, which I may do tomorrow. Or, I guess I'll talk about it here. I'm going to give myself a 15-minute limit, and I have 8 more minutes and a few more pieces here. Let's talk about the spring basketball and COVID and vaccinations. They said they were supposed to have 20 by the end of December, 20 million. They were have between 3 and 4. One of my people who has a doctor, close doctor relationship, said that the one vaccine is better than the other because it had less pain, less symptoms, and the 2 big ones out there are Moderna and Pfizer. You can do your research and figure out which one I'm talking about. They preferred one on the other, but the one that they wanted, they couldn't take, so they took the other one. So I was like, okay, well, take what you get. I saw the TVs today with all the seniors in Florida lining up in their cars. Talk about that gas bill. Everybody's in a hurry to get the COVID shot. Why? Because you have to wait 30 days to get the next one. Oh, it's only 3 weeks. Oh, it's 4. Well, guess what? If you get it in 3 or 4, you're waiting another 1 or 2 to see how you feel. Then you're going to go out. So you're talking 6, 7 weeks. Let's say a month and a half. And if anybody as a senior or anybody that's older, you know about shingles. I was like, what, you mean shingles on the roof? When you get older, and if you're young, you remember this, it's basically like having a fever blister for old people, except that it's a line of like very painful, like fever blisters somewhere on your body. And they tell you, oh, it's just a virus. Take shingles. You get a shingle shot, keeps it down. Guess what? You better get in line. I remember they said, oh, yeah, you have to sign up. Okay, I'll show up tomorrow. Oh, no. We'll call you when you're ready, when we're ready to have it. That was a CVS type of situation. So if I had that situation, what do you think everybody's thinking about? That was shingles. And also the flu virus, you can take that now. I got my shot a month ago. And, people are saying, hey, how do I sign up? There's no system. Blame the federal government. No. Because if you watch Contagion, how to be a national emergency, all these politicians won't allow that anymore. It's a state, what's called the United States. And all the states said, hey, blue state, red state, we're going to do one way, we're going to do it the other. Oh, we don't like the federal government. We like the federal government. And the states figure it out, and chaos. And that's why I hate politicians, because they just play all of us. So, is the COVID vaccine going to be done by April and May? No. Old people will still be getting it. my hand's up to get it. And what's that going to mean? It's going to mean that we're going to look at, people are talking about May, June. And probably by June, we're probably going to get a good handle on it. Is it going to be complete? No. This is where it comes in for July. And I'm going to save this because I want to do this later in January. We're going to talk about July once we get to January because I want to see what the numbers look like. There's two schools of thought, and I'll put them out here right now. There's one, coaches aren't out the entire summer because of budget and COVID's not finished. It's not completely solved. And the third, and this is the biggest, the schools need to get kids on campus and athletes on campus mid-July to mid-August to start fall sports, especially football, which is the cash cow. That is going to be nobody's talking about it. That is going to be the overriding thing. And it's going to be overriding because everybody's going to be wondering, oh, well, NIL. That's going to come in July 2021. So it's going to be really a fun year. July, get people on campus to go back to school because if you fill the dorms, they get paid. Those buildings don't pay for themselves. They need to get people on campus. They need to get people paying to go into a classroom. Virtual doesn't pay them. If you can do virtual, you don't even need to go to the school. Or why should you pay? That's a whole nother topic. As Anthony Brian Logan says, I digress. So I would tell you that that's going to be a big push. Now, what could open if there's no recruiting? On-school visits, provided you have a COVID vaccination or an antibody test before you do an official visit on campus. Why official? Because the coaches are going to have the leverage to tell you, hey, I don't need to watch you play. I need to see if you're going to pick me as one of your final 3 schools. I didn't say 5. I said 3. Because coaches are going to be, most of the kids are going to be signed by March anyway, March or April. They'll be signed. I think it was last year that was like a third were signed by the time we got to May. Maybe even more. It was like 45% of the top players were signed. They're signing the 22 class like now, and we're not even done the 21 class. And that'll be another topic. I'll come back to all this. But again, I think we're going to be in a situation where July is up for grabs. Coaches are going to want to get out. Budgets. You've seen it on TV. Somebody said to me, coaches are going to want to watch players. I'm like, of course they will. But if you watch basketball today, we watch it on TV. They watch game films. They watch scouting reports. They watch tape breakdown. Everything's done on film. And if you don't have an eye for film, you're in trouble. Here you go. How many recruits get handwritten letters? I'm not talking a text. I'm not talking, an email. I'm not talking how many coaches actually write a handwritten letter to these players that can be read. I mean, I couldn't. My handwriting's horrible. Why? Because who writes? Hey, you players, if you ever want to be in coaching, you better have good cursive handwriting, because everybody will be impressed with you because, oh my God, I can read this. That makes a statement. So if you want to impress somebody, cursive. All right, let's go to some more stuff and we'll get this done. And I will come back about the recruiting, spring basketball. Will events happen in the spring? Yes, depending if states open up. One of the things that, UK lockdown went into effect today. That was a big deal. Why? They came back again. So what does that mean for here? Don't be surprised if there's shutdowns in January and February, which means there's a more drag out of everything, which, is basketball that important that everybody in power is going to say we need to play basketball? Basketball's not that important in the big picture. It's going to be about getting life back to normal. Basketball's not part of normal. It's extracurricular, especially for schools, even from high school to college. And we're going to talk about that later, probably in the spring, about the impact of COVID on future sports participation. Okay, UK lockdown. And as I said, the CES is virtual, and the Olympics could be in trouble too. I remember it was a Panasonic was talking about they're starting to get a little bit nervous about how they're going to do their advertising for the Olympics in Tokyo. I don't know. Like I said, I'm happy that I got to talk to Dick Weiss. Blue Star Media has a credential for covering the Olympics in Tokyo, like we did in Rio, which is something that all these other fly-by-night, we're a media service. We're a media service. No, they're not. They're a fan. They're not. I can't even call them a fangirl or fanboy site. They're just, they're not real. Media is something where you have, journalistic background, AIPS, basketball writers, you do all those things. You're part of the business, the landscape, a shrinking landscape, by the way, which is very sad. And I hate to say that because if you look at any of the newspapers, even ESPN, which I thought was brilliant, starting all the radio and all the ESPN radios for various cities. Then they got rid of the magazine because I remember the editor. And then all of a sudden, now they're getting rid of everybody. Why? Because everybody's going to their own channel. And remember this, you can now Google stuff. Trust me, in the future, you're going to have to pay for Google. You're going to have to pay to read every article everywhere. And if you Google enough articles, you'll find out, oh, that takes me to a newspaper site? Yes, you can read the first 2 lines, pay for the rest. Eventually, we will have a Apple Media card, not an iTunes card. We're going to have an iTunes that gets you media. So you're going to be able to read stories because everything's going to be paid by pennies and cents. To some point, I won't even tell you about that future. But I told Dick Weiss and a number of people about this 15 years ago, maybe 20. Probably more like, 15 to 20 years ago, I mentioned this to Wendy Parker and Dick Weiss. I said, this is the future, mark my word. And now you have to go to certain like Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, some of these other sites. The Athletic, you can't get in. You can only read so many and join the read. So Google, which made its fate, and even Wikipedia asked for donations. So you're in the age of free information. And that's why you see all these new news channels pop up, because it's no longer about giving you an unbiased opinion. It's about finding the right channel for your bias, which is crazy. There's a bird watchers channel. Well, I don't need to see sports. I'm watching the birds, not the Eagles. So that's a joke. All right, that's part 1. That's 40A. We're 18 minutes in. I want to thank everybody, and we're going to be quicker with the other ones. We're going to have 2 more of these to go. So thank you.